So a bold, brave, and some would say reckless venture. But that's enough about QPR's attempt to stay in the Premier League next season. I'm delighted to be here, and it's been fantastic watching Christian's campaign develop, and I'm really pleased to support it. And I want to talk not about the kind of London we want, in a sense. I mean, I agree with everything that Catherine said and everything that Tony said and what I picked up from the transport discussion earlier and what I've heard of the housing stuff. We want all that stuff and more. You know, we want a land value tax so we can begin to pay, you know, not just the living wages, but the move towards a citizen's income. We need to bully those people over there and start to get a financial transaction tax so they don't wreck the economy. Again, we need to start looking at places like Sao Paulo, you know, who ban outdoor advertising that pollute our minds and, you know, the culture of our cities. We need to be doing a whole load of stuff. We've got bags of stuff, and I hope Christian develops more and more interesting, exciting policy ideas. The question is not what, the question is how. That seems to me the problem, and that's why we've got an issue of disengagement, an issue of concern and frustration about our politics. Not that we can't have a vision of the good society, one in which we are more equal, sustainable and democratic, one where we put well-being of our society and our planet before that of profit, where we have the public realms, the parks, the spaces, where we can be human beings, equal human beings, places where we meet each other and look into each other's eyes and not see others, but just see reflections of ourselves. We can think about those policies, we can develop them. The issue is, how do we do it? And we do it in a really interesting context, I think. We are going through one of those moments in history, a paradigm shift between one way of operating and being and another way of operating and being. And London, this fantastic city, is one of the centres of that kind of conversation. As we move from the 20th century to 2014 at last, coming into the 21st century. The 20th century, the era of the top-down command and control, bureaucratic way of doing things, to the 21st century, where, because of this stuff, because of this technology, the world is being flattened, made more horizontal, where what matters is peer-to-peer networks, many-to-many, not just the old bureaucratic command and control, do as I say world. And that is playing out in all sorts of ways, all sorts of good ways and all sorts of threatening ways. It is, you know, a tale of two cities, the best of times, the worst of times, seen on the streets of London last week, where the taxi drivers had their protest about Uber, trying to hold back the kind of, you know, the waves, trying to deny the fact that technology is going to rip this place apart in all sorts of bad ways, but in all sorts of brilliant ways is going to bring us together, allow us to collaborate, allow us to share, allow us to know anything and everything wherever we want. All sorts of communities, online and offline, bubbling up, doing things, making things happen, working locally. Much of it divorced from formal party politics. And that's what I think is interesting, maybe about Christian, let's hope it can be, about how we could develop a form of political leadership which begins to recognise that you need the vertical legitimacy of the mayorship, of party politics, of that kind of executive to do some of this stuff. But it's got to work out how it links with this new and I think very exciting horizontal world, a flat plane in which you have to treat people with some kind of sense of equality, some sense of dignity, some sense of democracy. How those two worlds begin to fit together and how do they begin to fit together in London. And I think, you know, Benjamin Barber is right. You know, the question if mayors ruled the world. Cities like London, city-states, are the place in which the local and the global begin to come together. They are the places where things are going to happen, and we're going to have to get the sense of leadership right about that. What kind of leader do we want of London? We certainly don't want a clown, we know that. But we don't want a leader to come in there and say, it's all about them. Mayor Angelo said, a leader sees greatness in other people. You can't be much of a leader if all you see is yourself. I think that's exactly right. The form of political leadership we want in London in the future is the person who listens, the person who builds platforms and spaces for people to do things for themselves, because in this age we all want to do things for ourselves. It's the age not of the factory where we know our place, it's the age of Facebook where we meet, talk, do things, have multiple identities. We want to fashion our world. It's new times, it's different, and the leader of London has got to recognise their place in that kind of politics. I say listening, platform building, not telling, not commanding. So I think that's the issue, not the what, although we need more of that, and we need detail of that, and we need to be adventurous with all of that in these new times. But the real question is, how do we make it happen, and how does Christian and whoever's the next mayor of London do what is really necessary to give people a sense that not just that something better is desirable, the kind of things you've been talking about today, but something better is actually feasible. Raymond Williams, the cultural critic socialist cultural critic from Wales, said this. He said, the art of leadership, the job of the radical, is to make hope convincing rather than despair inevitable. And I think that's the job of Christian and the job of us as political actors, to make hope possible for people of London.